how physically, well, how do
we find
these?
Catherine, can you give us some ideas? Because everything is
well, yeah,
changing.
I mean, it's
all of you.
Yeah, this is how my brain works. I'm always thinking about things. Well, one thing, Carla, that you mentioned before is that, you have the Open Studio project, but you're also touching on some really interesting ideas that are going on culturally about what art therapy is. And you were talking about that some of your people feel a departure from traditional art therapy. So when you talk about ways to find out about it, there's also the whole thing of having discussions on the internet about philosophies with art therapy and having those dialogues. And through those dialogues, you get to see where people stand on these things and then find you through that. So there's those types of approaches too.
People find us by Googling art in Evanston or art therapy. We're in the Arts and Rec Guide. We're also on Facebook. We've gone to very few mailings because of budget constraints, mailings, and that's also limited by your list.
Right.
Where we've gone to Constant Contact and a lot of Evites and things like that then people can also forward.
Well, Jeff, you do the Botanic Gardens, don't you?
Yeah, we do classes at the Botanic Gardens. We do classes at the Flower and Garden Show, which is, McCormick Place. We did a class last year at Taste of Chicago, but a lot of people find us on the internet. We do Constant Contact also, which has really taken the internet and advertising on the internet and made it accessible to people like me who, I spend all my time in the kitchen, and then I can spend maybe 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day trying to figure out how to get our name out on the internet. Whereas, I would say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you had to be full-time on the internet to even begin to do that.
All right, so
and now it's so easily done.
There's the responsibility we all have, is to stay current with regards to who we are on the internet. For dance.
Yeah, we have a site for the school. First of all, the dance center, where the people from 3 years old start to train, all the way up to adult classes. And then the company too, as Evanston Dance Ensemble. We have also now, we still do postcards for our benefits and things like that, but we also have a newsletter that go out on a regular basis to all our audiences. I just want to acknowledge real quick Bea Rashid. She's actually the founder of the Dance Center and the Ensemble. We work together. I just want to make sure I have her name in there. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make sure that
absolutely, please
honor her.
Catherine, with all these new technologies and everything changing, and we have such a diversity of people here,
Right.
What is happening on the internet, on applications,
Right.
how can we bring all these people together on one site that if we wanted to find everything, is there something like that out at this point?
Sure. Well, it's what they call hyper-local. And I think one thing I can't help but brainstorm and see is that I think sometimes for certain geographical areas there needs to be that kind of grouping. Because people do still want to, the one thing the internet's very weak on is local. There's not good local things. So that's an area that could be improved. But the thing I always feel is these things are easy. They're easier to do. Like, I was talking to Jeff and I was like, it'd be so easy to do a cooking show. You have a video camera, you could have a recipe of the week and you do it. I mean, these things are so cheap and easy to do. And like when we talk about performance on the site, because we do a lot of performance art coverage, it is still complicated and tricky. And so what we do is we would sit down with you before your show, take video with the lights on and full light, and then work with that content. So you do have to still look at it carefully. There's never a simple thing that just makes it perfect. You do still have to be conscious.
And be aware. And that
The other thing is that, for example, we actually have recently been working with a filmmaker who sort of filmed a workshop in time-lapse, because the way that we work is not something that most people would be familiar with. It's also hard to describe. So.
Absolutely, and I'm getting the cue. We've had a great show, and thank you, Jeff.
All of you. What a wonderful time.
I just want to say about connections. I got married at Pensiero.
We're saving that for the end, the very end. That we'll see.
18 years ago. So
that's congratulations.
Come see us. All of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we want to thank our guests and our studio audience for joining us today.
For another wonderful session of ACEs for these four guests. Thank you all very much.